What's up, Wall fans, Common Sensors, and of course, podcast consumers? Welcome to another very exciting live feed of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. It is Tuesday. We have some good reasoning. You knew the schedule was going to be all over the place for November. That's kind of just part of the game. But we also specifically moved it to Tuesday, and I'll get into why that is as we start the episode. This is episode 119 of Common Sense Sundays, and since we got a lot of stuff to get into, let's get straight to it.
Who 1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, welcome to episode 119 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. We have a very exciting episode for you tonight. Yes, it is Tuesday. Do not adjust your calendars. There's a good reason. I know sometimes we do Common Sense Sundays on a Monday. Shifted it to Tuesday on purpose this week, and we're going to get into that reasoning as we get through the episode. Before we get to the meat of everything, we are going to shamelessly plug our social channels. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's our official Facebook page, going to keep you updated on all new episodes, new content, scheduling updates, all that kind of great stuff. All goes through Facebook, as well as, of course, the podcast episodes themselves. So make sure you like our page and check back there and turn on notifications or whatever so you see it when new stuff comes out. And of course, our YouTube channel, our official Go Tell It to the Wall YouTube channel, which would be youtube.com/you guessed it, Go Tell It to the Wall. That's right, youtube.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. You can also find us by putting in @Go Tell It to the Wall. YouTube integrated that a while back. And of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is @SoCalSean, SoCalSean, @SoCalSean. Yes, those of you watching on the video, I know I said last episode I was going to change the Twitter handle. I completely forgot, and a lot of times I don't really look at it until I'm looking in my monitor and the camera's on, so we'll have it up there for some reference in the future. But again, @SoCalSean, SoCalSean. Tons of photo content coming up. I've actually got a bunch of stuff kind of in the hopper here, and it's all going to get posted very soon, so make sure you're following on there if that's something you're interested in. And of course, don't forget to bookmark SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That is the official one-stop website for anything and everything having to do with Go Tell It to the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, Mental Health Mondays, and of course, me, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. You're also going to find exclusive content on there that does not get posted to the social platforms, so I highly recommend you check that out on a semi-regular basis. I don't want to say I'm updating it daily, but there is exclusive content, as well as all that great stuff and links to the social platforms I just mentioned. You're going to find a link to our Patreon campaign. This is a way you can support the Go Tell It to the Wall studio, the podcast, all that good stuff. And even if you don't want to support us, I highly recommend checking out Patreon. Support some of your favorite artists, broadcasters, musicians, all that good stuff, a lot of whom are on Patreon. And if you want to support us but don't want to get involved with Patreon, it's really simple. So don't be afraid of Patreon. It's one of the best out there when it comes to, supporting creators and musicians and artists and everything else. But if you don't want to do it, you can support us by picking up some Common Sense merch through our merch website, which links directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. There's all kinds of great stuff up there. And I think at some point soon here, we are going to update the logos that are on there, because right now we don't have the cool Muppet Go Tell It to the Wall logo that we use on a lot of the stickers and stuff. So look forward to that at some point, as soon as we can get a chance to update the merch website. All right, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into our usually scheduled programming. This is kind of up in the air, but we're looking at some new concepts, bringing in some new topics to the podcast episodes, and actually looking to compress some of that. We've been getting some feedback, and our podcast episodes typically run an hour, and we've gotten some feedback that some people want to kind of hear some half-an-hour episodes, and so we might experiment with some of that, and tonight is probably going to be one of those. We're going to see kind of how it feels and how it lands and everything else, but we do take into account feedback, so if you want to send feedback, do that through Facebook. You can do it through the website. You can I don't know if you can message on YouTube, but feel free to comment on stuff on YouTube and let us know kind of what you like, what you don't like, and all that great stuff. And in fact, we're going to be reaching out to patrons with the possibility of changing things up. Right now, it's based on a per episode situation, and a lot of people have it maxed out at a certain amount. So they're essentially giving a set amount monthly, but we're going to look and kind of get some feedback and see if that should just be changed to a flat monthly rate for a lot of our patrons that are out there. And we are going to be adding some more perks and stuff on the official Go Tell It to the Wall Patreon. So look forward to that as well. And we're going to test this stuff out kind of over the next few months and see what works best. I really would appreciate it. Anyone's feedback. Again, you can reach out to me, to our producers through multiple channels. Usually if it's the website, I'm the only one seeing that. If it's Facebook, producers are going to see it, admins are going to see it, stuff like that. But again, I'm looking for feedback. This isn't like when I say if you need some help, do it through the website so only I see it. But please send that feedback if you have any to give us. And make sure you're rating us on your favorite podcast platforms. That's a funny thing. We're on so many podcast platforms. It's hard to kind of keep track of all the numbers. Now, we get numbers through our podcast hosting site, which is Podomatic, but even that can't pull everything. So we're not getting as accurate of numbers as I would prefer. Getting a weird reflection on me. Oh, that's hilarious. See, we had shirt issues last time, and there was like a piece of fuzz on here, and this is going to throw me off the whole time because I'm wearing my Descendants Circle Jerk shirt, and it's actually sweat coming off of Milo's head, and it's supposed to be on the shirt. I haven't really paid attention to this. Pick this one up at Punk in the Park. We are going to have a Punk in the Park Day 2 recap once we get to entertainment news, but I'm going to keep looking at that in the monitor. It's actually part of the design, Sean. I got to pay attention to what the hell shirts I'm wearing. And now we're already getting tangented. But like I said, please send that feedback. Rate us on wherever it is you're listening to. I'm not going to sit here and say, listen on a specific one. We have a lot of people listen on Spotify, people listen on Google, tons on Apple, and even you can listen directly on Podomatic. But I know there's so many others out there. We're on Amazon Music, all this kinds of stuff. So please, along with that feedback, rate us on there. Let us know what you prefer. It's going to go out to all the platforms anyway, but it just helps us kind of keep track of that kind of stuff. All right, now that we're done with that housekeeping, let's get into some digital trends on this fine Tuesday in November. Here is part of the reason, and we're going to have more detail on this once we get to positive news, but today is Tuesday, and it is the annual Giving Tuesday, so hashtag Giving Tuesday. A lot of people, you might have seen it if you're scrolling social platforms today. Today is a day to support charities. We promote a lot of charities here at Go Tell It to the Wall. I think a lot of them are very important. We talk a lot about Punk Rock Saves Lives. We talk about all kinds of other charities, especially ones involved with the punk rock scene. This is a day to possibly show your appreciation monetarily, or even if you're just sharing things and ways for people to donate. All that works as well, too. I mean, it goes the same for the podcast. I don't often say it, but anyone that shares this, you're really helping the visibility of Go Tell It to the Wall and Common Sense Sundays and all that good stuff. The other interesting thing that I've noticed this year is we have some musicians and artists who have put out some of its specific designs for Giving Tuesday, and then obviously those are not necessarily charities, but the ones I've seen popping up are actually donating to charities to support Giving Tuesday. I saw one that was supporting LGBTQ youth, so there's all kinds of great stuff that you can do along those lines, and you can even support by picking up some merch. So look into that, and again, like I said, more detail later on for something that I hold very close, and I know a lot of people out there do when it comes to Giving Tuesday. All right, viral Black Friday prices video. This was interesting. This popped up like Friday or Saturday. And a woman was walking through Target, and specifically the pallets. You see these a lot of times in the big box stores. You'll have TVs like kind of in the middle, and there's a thing sticking up, and Walmart has like a slogan that's all on all those. I haven't been to Walmart in years, but this particular woman was in Target, and it showed the Black Friday pricing on the little price stand there. She removed, pulled it out a little, pulled out the one behind it, which would have been like, let's say, full price or a different sale price. And it was the sale price that they had all month. And on these 3 or 4 different items, mostly TVs, she found that the Black Friday price was exactly the same as the sale price that they had going on all month. Wall fans, common sensors, this is something I've talked about for years. You're not always getting the best deal. You're spending what should be a relaxing Friday going out, brawling with people in order to save a few dollars on a TV that you probably could have saved the same amount by not dealing with the crowds. So keep that in mind. And like I said, if you really do need a new TV and you want to get a new big fancy TV, do that in February. Black Friday's not the time to do it. Now, all that being said, I do have to admit that I've made some purchases on Black Friday. I don't, however, go out to stores. That's not something I do, but I did pick up some stuff online because you can find some deals. It's just don't expect to go out and find a TV for like a third of the price of what it would normally be on sale, because it's going to be about the same. Is it really worth saving a couple bucks to go, ruin your day the day after Thanksgiving when you could just be relaxing and watching college football and pro football now? And even if you don't like that, there's all kinds of other content out there that you can watch on television. Just have a relaxing day. But again, I did purchase some things. And these sales continue. If you're a Vans fan like I am, they had 30% off the entire weekend. They moved it to 40% off yesterday for Cyber Monday. Not the entire site, but a lot of it was 40% off. Those things tend to be worth it. And that's another example. Vans often has 30% off site-wide. Now, I went and made some purchases because I needed some Christmas gifts that happened to be Vans shoes. And another one that I got is I actually picked up a cover for my new Blackstone grill that I got from my design agency for my birthday. And that there, you can find things. It's just don't go for these huge big ticket items, and know that you're probably going to find similar prices throughout the year. With this cover for my grill, I figured, this probably goes on this much sale at certain times, but now's the time to get it. And actually a new stand for my grill as well. All right, Squid Game Challenge. This thing is still around. I can't believe they haven't just canceled the damn thing. Of course, they got to air it. They recorded it all and blah, 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 blah. And it's a reality show. We're getting pushed with game shows and reality shows right now because everyone's slowly coming back from the writers and actors strike, of course. But there's a viral clip going around, and it's a guy, for those of you not familiar with Squid Games, I never watched Squid Games, but I've seen a couple clips, and there's one of the challenges, you have to poke out a design from like a cookie, and people are using needles. And I guess they were doing this for the Squid Game Challenge, and this poor guy broke his cookie and then just kind of bowled over, making a very, very loud scream, excruciating, ear-piercing scream, and you could see in his face how upset he was, and he just kind of rolled over to the side, and apparently they have squibs in their shirts. Fortunately, they're not shooting people like they do in the show Squid Games, and then, of course, he was eliminated. And everyone's laughing at him and stuff, and it's like, this is just the perfect example of how they're just not getting it. People are so intent because it's going to change their lives on getting $4 million. We've come such a long way. I'd seen a post about this, so I can't take full credit. From the early days of game shows where somebody won a washer and dryer or a vacation, and it was like, this is great. Think about Price is Right. That's been around forever. You're getting stuff like that. It's not. Nowadays, people are competing on these game shows in order to survive in the economy that we currently live in. And it's just, I don't see the appeal of it. And people are now seeing these clips, realizing how ridiculous it is and how cruel it is to these contestants that are on the show. Now, granted, they signed up to do it. They're not being forced to do it. This isn't Hunger Games or something like that, yet missing the point completely. All right. This is not something you'd want to see when you're going to Disneyland with your family, especially, anybody, but especially if you've got kids. This past Sunday at Disneyland, there's a video circulating on all the social platforms. And see, here's what we're doing is some of this stuff could be shifted around, so we're going to be a little more fluid with our segments here. And you might have seen this one. A guy apparently climbed out of the boat on It's a Small World and started taking off his clothes and walking around the attraction. He eventually ended up completely naked in the water of It's a Small World, the ride. And, of course, security tried to get him. They had to call in Anaheim Police Department to assist them with getting this guy out of there. Clearly, he had some issues. Clearly. This wasn't like a protester. This wasn't Steve-O doing a stunt or something like that. This guy clearly was having, my guess is, some substance abuse issues. But beyond that, I don't know. It wasn't worth researching exactly what was wrong with him, but it is quite ridiculous. Can you imagine being at SeaWorld, at Disneyland? SeaWorld, he'd be in a tank with some orcas or some dolphins. That'd be even, I don't know if that'd be weirder or less weird. Nonetheless, you imagine you're trying to ride It's a Small World. My kid loves It's a Small World. And there's a naked man running around the ride and swimming in the water. On top of that, I'll leave you with this. If you've ever smelled the water on It's a Small World, that is not water you want to swim in by any means. Now, Disney is a very clean place, but that water, who knows what's going on in that water? Probably got kids throwing up over the side of the boat, all kinds of, just stay the hell out of the water, whether you're naked or not a good idea. All right, hashtag Boom Challenge. This one, here's one that confused me. This comes up every now and then, Wall fans. And this wasn't even something that kind of came up as trending. I just kept seeing it in my social feeds, especially on Twitter. And so I actually did a little research on this one. Apparently, the hashtag Boom Challenge was something that started on TikTok in 2021. And it's very similar to like other challenges you see. You see the Instagram models and stuff, and they do this thing like the window wiping thing or whatever it might be. And people look really frumpy. It's men and women. And then it switches to them like all glammed up. Originally, it was a lot of females in sport coats, so they're obviously not fully naked, but revealing things there. Weirdly, it's been popping up in my feeds with celebrity photos, and people are sharing these celebrity photos, so it's not even them, and saying hashtag Boom Challenge. Now, granted, I saw the connection because a lot of these photos are like sexy photos of celebrities and singers and stuff like that. But I noticed as I've been seeing this for a couple weeks now, a lot of it is AI generated photos. Specifically, I've seen ones of like Billie Eilish. It's like, that is clearly not really Billie Eilish. You know what I mean? But this seems to be popping up all over the place. So I don't know if people are recycling it and using it for other stuff, but hashtag Boom Challenge. You might have seen this popping up in your feeds. And that's just Twitter nowadays, because you see so much more than just people you follow. It's not people I follow that are posting photos with this hashtag Boom Challenge. It's the random shit that you get in your feed when you're scrolling through Twitter there. All right, mental health. We're going to keep it kind of short this week, but I do want to talk about a couple things. Specifically, ceasefire, violence, and the fact that, depending on your age, you've most likely lived in a world that has always been at war. And this got me thinking lately, obviously because of what has been happening in the Ukraine, and what is happening in Palestine and Israel. I've said from the beginning, I don't know enough about it, but there are clear things that we can talk about, such as a ceasefire. We can negotiate land without killing each other, and that to me is just common sense. But the fact that in my lifetime, we have always been at war. The United States has pretty much always been at war, but then there's other stuff. I remember being younger and you'd hear about Somalia. You'd hear about all kinds of other stuff, and it's just, we become numb to it, and it's constant. And it has become more forward-facing nowadays because the news cycle runs so quickly. At the drop of a hat, we're getting information. We're getting video from the ground from people that are shooting on cell phones. You don't even have to have journalists on the ground. But it can also really take its toll, especially nowadays with social media. You always hear about the doom scrolling and everything else. And it brings negative thoughts in. For those of us and you that deal with mental illness or mental health issues, anxiety, depression, negative thoughts can be a huge, huge trigger and catalyst for those types of things. So you need to keep that in mind. And what happens is, not only do the negative thoughts come in, but we tend to let that kind of make that lose our faith in humanity, for lack of a better word. Really, not even lack of a better word. That's just how it is. You see this violence. You see a world constantly at war, and that's what you're constantly focused on, because that's always in your face. Here's the thing to remember. You need to remind yourself of the positive things. This is going to be beneficial to your mental health. Whether you deal with a debilitating mental illness or you just have everyday human issues, looking at the positivity is going to help with those feelings of helplessness, with those feelings of negativity, with those feelings of loss of faith in humanity. Because there will always be bad people. But the thing is, there's always going to be more good people. And it may not relate completely, but it reminds me of something my mother used to tell me. We owned a candy store when I was a kid and when I was a teenager. So retail. And this is a thing to just remember in life. An upset person is going to tell 1,000 people that they're upset with a certain situation, with a business. They're going to be negative. A person who is happy and satisfied is probably only going to tell like 10 people. I know that seems silly, but if you think about it, that's an example of how there is more positivity in the world. There's more good people in the world than there are negative bad people. And it's always going to be that way. We just don't hear about them as much. That's partly why we incorporated a positive news segment into Go Tell It to the Wall and Common Sense Sundays, so you can be reminded of those things. Look to the good people. Look to the positivity. And look to those that are helping. Because there's always going to be people speaking out against violence. There's always going to be people who are doing what they can to help prevent violence, curtail war, because we're just constantly. The world is just so full of violence, but that's what we see. You don't see as much footage of the people doing good on the ground, you know? So keep those things in mind. At the same time, still be loud. It's okay to recognize that that is a horrible situation, to speak out against it. It's not a be silent. It is finding a balance between those two things. Because if you're getting so worked up about it that it's affecting your mental health, then you are not in a position to be positive and helpful. So be educated. This is something I always say. Be educated, but take care of your own mental health and physical health. Mental health can affect physical health as well. There is a distinct connection between those things. And of course, turn off the news at times. Turn off the news. Give your mind a rest. And of course, like I said, balance being upset and taking care of yourself. Know that you cannot fix everything. You just can't. But you can do all you can within your limits and while still taking care of your mental and physical health. So keep that in mind as you're seeing all this negativity and this violence. That this is all we see on the news right now. That's all there is. Violence and negativity. And to take it to a different place, let's get into some positive news. This one's going to sound kind of funky, because there is an organization called the V Foundation for Cancer Research. This is named after a now deceased college basketball coach who unfortunately 32 years ago, or he got cancer like 33 years ago, fought like hell to beat cancer. Unfortunately, cancer took him 31 years ago or so, right around that time. And the reason I know that exact timing is, and I'm going to tell you, even if you're not a sports fan, this is something I encourage, and I've done this before. I've said it before on the podcast, and it comes up every Giving Tuesday because the V Foundation does a big push for donations for cancer research. They do fundraisers and all kinds of great stuff. I encourage everyone. You just go on YouTube. You can find, if you just Google it, it'll pop up. Jimmy V gave a speech at the ESPYs 31 years ago. Like 31 years ago today, I think. But it might have, I can't remember the exact date, but it's about 31 years ago. And to watch a man who is literally dying, fighting but dying, the positivity that comes out of his mouth and the life lessons that he imparts on everybody over the course of this speech that he gives at the ESPYs, regardless of if you like sports, is something that everybody needs to see. He's so positive and reassuring despite the circumstances. And you could see that is just an incredible human being. We just talked about negative people in the world. This is a great way to kind of look at the positive side of things. Granted, it was 31 years ago, but we still talk about it today. People are still often refer to that speech. I watch it every year, at least once a year around this time, because that's when it comes up again. So I highly, highly encourage you to do that. And that's the thing. The V Foundation for Cancer Research has actually done a ton of great work. They have given so much money to cancer research. They've made strides, and depending on your age, just in the world, our country here and the entire world, the strides that we have made when it comes to cancer treatment. Cancer isn't necessarily the death knell that it used to be, even in my lifetime. It's still very scary. We should all still say fuck cancer, and and take care of those, the mental well-being of those that are dealing with cancer. I get that, but we have come so far. And I heard a stat today, and forgive me for not having the exact stat, but 20 years ago or 30 years ago, something like that, we had like a few million cancer survivors in the United States of America. Nowadays, we have something like 800 million. And that may sound crazy, like that just means more people are getting cancer, and that could be part of it, but another part of it is that more people are surviving cancer. Less people are dying from cancer. And we have organizations like the V Foundation that are at the forefront and have been for 25 plus years when it comes to doing good in the realm of cancer research. So again, I encourage you to check out that speech. Look into the V Foundation for Cancer Research. They do such great work, and it is such a terrible thing that we still haven't completely beat it. We may have made strides, but we still have a long way that we can go, whether it's making it preventable, new treatments, all that kind of stuff. So I know it sounds like a weird thing to talk about positive news, but the speech itself and the positive impact that Jimmy V had on the rest of the world, even in his death, is just something that has reverberated across generations. All right, let's talk some parenting. I saw a news story the other day about this mother in El Paso. She's 33 years old, and she thought it would be a good idea, and she filmed all of this, to dress up as her 13-year-old daughter. I'll let that sink in for a sec. And then attend a day of school at the middle school where her daughter goes to school. I guess maybe she just left her. I don't know if her daughter was sick or she just left her daughter at home. And she went to school and went completely unnoticed until the end of the day. Now, to be fair, I think this video is not very recent, especially because it's Texas, where the mask mandates did not last very long at all. But she was wearing masks the whole day, so that obviously helped a bit. And she put on glasses, and her daughter wore glasses. And clearly there's some similarities. But a 33-year-old woman versus a 13-year-old girl, there is a big difference. Unfortunately, she didn't get noticed till the end of the day, like I said. Now, she claimed it was an indictment on school safety. And when I heard that part, I was like, okay, I kind of get it. It is ridiculous that nobody noticed you for the entire day. However, you filmed this all, put it out on social media, to whether it's making a statement or not, you did it at least partly for clicks and views. And the other thing is, whether you're trying to make a statement on school safety or not, there's a certain sociopathic nature that goes into dressing up as your daughter and going to school for the day. Now, she was actually arrested after the police found out that she had been posing as her daughter and trespassing on school grounds. If I remember correctly, she didn't get thrown into jail, but she got like probation and community service and fined and all this other stuff. But it's really just a strange thing. I have a child in school. I have lots of friends with children in school. I get it. We want them to be safe. You can't walk into my kid's school without checking in at the office. You can't just walk on campus. Everything's completely closed up. You got to go through you got to get buzzed in through a door, and most schools are like that these days. Now it would be tough at an elementary school. I mean, that's middle school is one. It's tough enough. High school, we've all seen that the Drew Barrymore movie, but it's just so odd to me, and to understand. I just can't completely understand the thinking that this woman had behind doing this. Whether you're trying to make a statement on school safety or not, it takes a certain type of person to go through all that effort, film it, post it, and then claim like, oh, I didn't want this for views and clicks. It's like, but why did you put it out there? You could have done this, not filmed it, even if you'd gotten caught and said, hey, I went through almost an entire day, school day without being noticed that I wasn't my daughter. All right, Trolls 3. I want to give a little tip for all of you out there. I actually found this out from a neighbor who also has kids. And we were talking about the subject of Trolls 3 came up. It's the newest Trolls movie that's in theaters. And depending on the age of your kids, if they're around the age of my kid, probably obsessed with Trolls. There's a lot of special screenings going on out there. So, you can go to the theater and just see the movie. But I've noticed a lot of special screenings pop up. And my wife actually took my kid to one of them last weekend. And they've had different ones. But this one's like different themed things. This one I thought was fantastic. And what they do is when you pay for your ticket and you go in, they give you a light-up wristband, which I assume, I'm not sure. I'm curious to look into it. I didn't do that deep of a dive. I assume it's RF controlled. So basically, the bracelet lights up based on what is happening during the film. And I asked my wife, I said, so are they just blinking the whole time? It's not so much that. It's like if a big thing happens, and it's like, kind of. And then when the songs come on. If you're not familiar with Trolls, the first two movies and now the third, it's like a musical. There's just tons of singing. It's Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick who are singers. They're the main characters, and tons of other people that have vocal talent. Well worth the extra cost. We actually I debated, not even debated, but my wife and kid could have gone to a less expensive screening, and I said, you know what? It's probably worth the silly bracelet thing. And oh my God, was it? So not only were the kids having a blast, you don't want this when you're going to see a serious movie you're trying to pay attention to, but if you're taking your kids, they're going to be dancing and singing anyway. All the kids in the theater had a blast from what I could hear. And then on top of that, when the credits started rolling, a bunch of kids went down to the bottom part of the theater and all started dancing. Their parents were down there too, but all started dancing with these light up bracelets that are just going crazy. It was quite the scene going on there. So I highly recommend that. If you're going to go take your kids to see Trolls anyway, go. It's worth the extra money. My kid had an absolute blast. And we're going to kind of transition here, because this is parenting, but I want to transition a little bit into kind of our common sense segment. This is what I've talked about with toying with things and the order of things and length of episodes and all that stuff. So into common sense, crossing guards for school. We talked about this a while ago, and I got to bring it up again. Here at LAUSD, we have been trying to get crossing guards for almost 3 years at my kid's school. They had crossing guards pre-COVID. They had them. It's funny because I used to go on walks with my kid when she was too young for school, and the crossing guards would come out and let us cross the street even during the middle of a school day. And I've talked about how people have almost gotten hit. I've almost gotten hit. Someone actually was killed in this exact intersection that I'm talking about. It happened to me again yesterday. I am walking to school to pick up my child, walking the dog, and I'm literally in the crosswalk of a school crosswalk, not even just a stop sign crosswalk or anything like that, a school. And not even a high school, an elementary school. These small children. And this guy starts driving through the intersection. And I stop and I look at him. I said, stop. What are you doing? And he's going, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no. And he's rolling through the intersection. I'm like, what are you doing? And I said to him, it's a school. You cannot just go through here like this and back up. And sure enough, a friend of mine who's another parent at the school happened to be on his way to school and was waiting to go through the intersection, which is also ridiculous. Because this guy was pulling into the intersection when he shouldn't be driving through. My friend, who was making a left and wouldn't have been going toward anybody in the intersection because I'm to his right, had to sit there while this guy's just in the intersection. And granted, like I said, he apologized, but I was like, then you back the fuck up. I didn't say fuck because I was right by the school, but you back up. And this guy, and we deal with this constantly. And I know, depending on where you live, you might deal with it too. But here in Los Angeles, Jesus Christ, people like to cut through the neighborhoods. They've been putting speed bumps in. They've been putting roundabouts in, which aren't even really roundabouts. They're just like a slow the fuck down intersection, but still people cut through. They drive entirely too fast. And then, there's always the joke about the California stop. This isn't even California stops. This is like, I'm going to hesitate for a second, just go. I see it all the time. We all need to do better, just in general, but especially for our kids. You shouldn't be doing that anyway, but for God's sake, don't do it by a school. It's just ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. Speaking of things outside of school, I was picking up my kid today, and I'm walking, and I'm going, I started smelling, I'm like, whoa, and to caveat it, I'm not going to sit here and criticize somebody for smoking pot. However, I'm right in front of my kid's school. And right across the street, and we're not talking a big 5-lane, 6-lane street. We're talking a neighborhood street, 2 lanes, one each way. Smoke is billowing out of this guy's car. And the entire street right in front of the school smelled like pot. And again, I have no problem with people smoking a little pot. I would be a hypocrite if I was like, that's terrible and bad for you, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing, find anywhere else to do it. Why does it have to be right in front of the school? Which is technically illegal. Here in California, recreational weed is legal, but it is still it's technically illegal to smoke marijuana in public. And you might say, well, he's in his car. Yes, but it's a public school. He's parked across the street from a public school property. We all need to do better. And this is just like, why? It blows my mind that people think stuff like that is okay. And he's still in the car as I'm walking my kid back home. And it's like, you are just blowing smoke toward a school. Go somewhere else. I'm all for medical marijuana and recreational marijuana, but I do miss the days when people actually tried to be subtle about it. You had to go park somewhere far away from people. You couldn't just do it. You had to go on a hike up a mountain so no one saw you smoking pot. I do miss that from those days. All right, Christmas trees. I was thinking about this recently, and there's actually an ad campaign that's like, buy a real Christmas tree, and I get it. Support Christmas tree farmers. It's like, okay, fine. I get that. I'm not trying to take money out of Christmas tree farmers' pockets. However, this also comes up every year where people are like, fake trees are so expensive. I get it. We actually had to buy a new fake tree this year. We had a fake tree that we have had, oh my gosh, since Christmas 2017. Last year, toward the end of the season, it's a pre-lit tree. One of the strands went out. And it was like, okay, you know what? And we wanted to get a taller tree at some point anyway, so it's like next year we'll get a new tree. And sure enough, this year caught a deal oh my gosh, like a month ago on a pre-lit fake Christmas tree. And I should caveat this, wall fans, with the fact that I pretty much grew up with fake Christmas trees. We traveled on Christmas every year to Chicago. So we weren't about to leave a live tree in the house while we were in Chicago for, anywhere from 10 to 14 days. That's a fire hazard. It's fucking San Diego. You don't want that. So, but at the same time, it got me thinking about the cost difference. A lot of people say, well, it's so expensive to buy an artificial tree. Maybe you're spending like $150 on one. Yeah, but you're spending what? At minimum, you're probably, and I have bought a real tree a couple times. It's a very rare occasion. I haven't done it in years, obviously. But at minimum, you're spending like $45 on a Christmas tree. Minimum. Okay? So yes, that is less than $150, but you cannot keep a live Christmas tree for the following year. It doesn't work like that. You can't. So when you factor that in, let's say $45, if you're spending $150 on a artificial Christmas tree, if you get 3 years out of it, you've pretty much spent the same amount that you've spent on a live tree. Now, if you want a live, fine. I'm not saying don't get a live tree. It's just don't be put off of it because of the cost. You're gonna get 5, 6, 7, 8 years out of the thing. I mean, when I was growing up, we had an artificial tree that, I swear, we had the same one from when I was like 6 until I would say my parents still have it, but probably until the fire when everything got destroyed. No, actually, maybe my parents might still have that same damn tree. So, 30 years, 35 years they've had the same tree, and this, so factor that in. All right, let's talk some entertainment news, and then we are going to wrap up episode 119. One Black Friday deal that I did actually get, and it wasn't on Black Friday, and it wasn't necessarily a deal, but Less Than Jake put out some new merch the Wednesday before Black Friday, so the day before Thanksgiving, and I made sure to set my alarm. I mean, I had to be up anyway for work with the agency, not to take the kid to school because she was off, but made sure I double set my alarm. They had some Less Than Jake Vans, and I'm pretty sure a year or two ago I talked about the Vans high top, the custom Less Than Jake Vans high tops they made. This time they made some slip-ons with the Hello Rockview characters from the cover on them. They had announced it like the day before, and they went on sale at noon Eastern time on Wednesday. They apparently sold out within a minute, completely sold out. And then literally like an hour later, I saw people posting in the fan groups, like people are selling them on eBay for $500, $600, $700 because it was very limited edition. They made like 335 of them or something like that, and then covering all the sizes. So you can imagine the demand versus the supply on that one. Now, I'm fortunate enough to be in the Evo Kid Army, which is the Less Than Jake fan club. I actually got in 15 minutes early, so I was able to secure my pair of Hello Rockview Vans, and I just got a notification today that they have shipped. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But if you're a huge fan like I am, and you were lucky enough to pick those up, congrats. But I would encourage you not to go spend $500 on them. They were $110, which even that's pricey for a pair of Vans, but these are, and as my friends always tease me, they're like, cool, you got another pair of Vans I'll never see you wear. And it's like, yep. They're for the collection. They'll be right next to my other pair of Less Than Jake Vans that I've never worn. All right, Punk in the Park Day 2. We got there very early again. We were in the first 15 people inside Punk in the Park. And it was one of those funny things because I was with my buddy Adam, and we'd had breakfast, and we checked out of the hotel, and we put our bags in the car, and it was like 10:30, and we're just standing around. We're like, should we just go? It was a little early to go, but we're like, yeah, let's just go. We'll go hang out, and we'll be there early enough. And, sure enough, we did and got in early. And then had a fantastic beer tasting. I mean, both days, but we actually really focused on the beer. Not focused, I think because we had to see Polly on the first day very early, we were kind of in between the two. But because we had up until 2:30 for the beer tasting, we really were making the rounds and doing a good tasting. And there was a couple of really tasty beers that I went back for a few times. One of my favorites was they had, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the Oregon cider company, Two Towns. That's it. Two Towns had this, and I'm not a huge cider person. I'll drink it occasionally. They had this incredible blackberry cider, and it's so funny because I'm with a group of people, and a bunch of us are bearded, couple of bald, tall, big IPA drinkers, and we ended up standing by the Two Towns booth, and all of us just kept being like, they have these little cups, and we all were like, oh, I think I'll get another one of those, and we just kept going back, and it was really quite the scene, because you wouldn't expect a lot of people in the group I was with to be going and getting blackberry cider, but we thoroughly were enjoying that cider. I made a point. I know I said I was going to go and boo Defiant and flip them off and everything else. I actually did not do that. They went on at 2 o'clock, and I kind of stood in the beer garden, and I said, is it worth going to boo, or am I better off spending this half an hour just enjoying this free beer? So I stayed and enjoyed the free beer. We headed over to one of the stages to see We Are the Union at 2:30, so we missed the very end of the beer tasting, but at that point we had our fill. We Are the Union killed it. Reed is just fantastic as always. I will say she kind of made an announcement, asked that the organizers include, and I quote, more queer bands in the upcoming years, which I totally understand, and this is especially after they are following the Defiant. I mean, for God's sake, I'm sure Reed was holding herself back when it came to things that could have been said during that set, but they killed it as always. I will say I had a very strange California burrito experience. They had a burrito stand there. The day before, I had a cheesesteak, very tasty cheesesteak and fries. But I was like, oh, California burrito. So I go up there, and I always ask this because, depending where you go, there can be slight variations on a California burrito. The most important is French fries and carne, and I would say cheese. And I go up there, and I'm like, what specifically is on this California burrito? Curiously, not accusatorily. Oh, look at that word. Thanks, 7th grade grammar. Not accusatorily. And the woman behind, she's like, oh, it has blah, 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 blah. And it was like sour cream and guac, which I kind of get, but then it was beans, like salsa, which I get, onions, and it's like, okay, I kind of get that stuff. No cheese. So I'm like, sitting there, and I even said, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm used to carne, fries, and cheese, and then maybe, I get no pico because I don't like cilantro. I have that gene where cilantro just tastes disgusting to me. I don't even like smelling it. Maybe get some sour cream in there. No, not all this stuff. So I'm like, having her go through it with me, and I apologize. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't want to get a burrito I'm not going to like, So I'm getting things off. I ended up keeping the beans in it. It was a fantastic burrito, but it was very confused what their take on a California burrito was. And of course, this is another situation. So, as you know, I will have an occasional cigarette out at a show. Don't get on me too hard about that. I'm not a regular smoker by any means anymore. Used to be. So I had like a half a pack of smokes that I'd picked up. So I think I had it sitting around somewhere. And this guy comes up and he's like, hey, can I buy a cigarette from you? This is so common. It's been common forever, but even more common nowadays because of how expensive cigarettes are. And I was like, no, you just have one. He's like, no, they're so expensive. And he's trying to hand me a $10 bill. And I'm like, they're expensive, but I'm pretty sure you can get a whole pack for $10. He's like, no, take it. And I'm like, no, please just take a cigarette. And he puts it in my sweatshirt pocket at that point. And I'm handing him a cigarette. And I was like, you know what? Here, take another one. And you know what? I'm not keeping this $10 for myself. I'm going to walk from here over to that Punk Rock Saves Lives booth, and I'm going to put it in the donation can. So this is, that's how we're going to settle, because I don't want to take your money. And he's like, okay, sounds good. And sure enough, like a few minutes later, another guy tries giving me like $3. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I just did this with another guy. Here's two. And I'm going to walk this over and put it in the donation bin for Punk Rock Saves Lives. But that's just punks for you. Like everybody's like, I get it. You couldn't buy cigarettes at the event, so you run out of cigarettes and you're done. It's like Burning Man, except it's only a day, so you can pick them up in between. But, once you're out of cigarettes, you're out of cigarettes. So it's kind of a funny interaction there. And great music to end the day. I mean, so many good acts there. Buzzcocks were killing it. I'm blanking on. There's so many great bands, and we were kind of going stage to stage. And then, of course, Descendants killed it to end the festival. They are always a great act to see. If you've never seen the Descendants live, you have been missing out. All right, and then this past weekend, I know I mentioned Western Standard Time Ska Orchestra. I had the privilege of seeing them at the Lodge Room, which is very close to where I live. I actually walked there. I had some friends come over for a couple pre-drinks. We walked there. We hit up the Greyhound for a little dinner, and then headed on over to the Lodge Room. Western Standard Time Orchestra put on a great show. It was actually their Christmas album release, so Jesse from the Agrolites was singing with them. Talina got on stage, and from Bite Me Bambi got on stage and sung a couple songs with them. And I highly encourage you to check out their Christmas album because they did a cover of Dominic the Donkey. You may not be familiar with this song, but I am very familiar with it because my wife is completely obsessed with it, and now my daughter is. I'm hoping I won't be completely tired of it by the time we get to Christmas, because I'm already getting close and it's not even December yet. But it was great hanging out with a lot of friends. We were all there for the music, but we were all there to kind of enjoy each other's company as well, which was great. And this Friday, I'll be down at Garden Grove Amphitheater, Garden Amp as it's known, for Suburban Clampdown 4. This is the 4th year. I swore it was the 3rd year, 4th year. I'll be there for day 1 on Friday. Many bands that I'm looking forward to seeing, specifically Ignite, who are one of my absolute favorite bands on the scene right now. So if you're going to be heading out to Garden Grove, look for me, look for the purple hair, and I'll throw some stickers your way if you're going to be at that show. All right, that is going to do it. I was shooting for 45 minutes. We went a little over, but that's okay. Again, I'd appreciate people's feedback on kind of show length and topics and what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. Please feel free. If you're like, that fucking sucks, just tell me. I have no shame. I come in here and yell at a wall on a weekly basis. It's not a big deal. Just tell me how terrible it is. I mean, don't attack me personally. You know, if you don't like purple hair, I don't need to hear you don't like purple hair. I like purple hair. You don't like beards? That's fine. I don't need to hear about it. But when it comes to show content and stuff, please give me some feedback on that. We should be back Sunday with episode 120. Not positive on that, but make sure you are following our Facebook page, facebook.com/GoTellUsTheWall for updates on the next episode that's coming out. And, of course, this episode video feed will be uploaded to youtube.com/GoTellUsTheWall. You can find us there or using @GoTellUsTheWall. And, of course, don't forget to follow my own personal Instagram account, which is @SoCalSean. SoCalSean @SoCalSean. And, of course, make sure you bookmark SeanO'RourkeLive.com for exclusive content, as well as links to those social platforms and links to our Patreon campaign, as well as our merch website if you want to support us financially. All right, like I said, that is going to do it for episode 119 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And until next time, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter who you're with, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always, always use common sense.